we go. We are live. I like that intro. Always like that intro.
Yeah, gets me
Uh,
dancing.
Yeah, that's I was going to say that nobody can see me dancing with that music. It's just pumping me out. Welcome, folks. This is another Containers from the Couch. My name is Carlos Santana. I'm the solutions architect with the EKS service team, aligned with helping customers in terms of platform engineering, GitOps, Gen AI. Now everything's AI agents on EKS. And inviting my friends. I'm also a CNCF ambassador, and with that, I do a lot of work in the community. I go to almost every KubeCon lately, and I have a lot of friends in the community around all these open source projects. And one of them is Christian, that is joining me to talk about Argo CD and Akuity. Hi, Christian.
Hey, hi, Carlos. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been wanting to come on Containers from the Couch. We were talking a little bit before we started here. It's like, yeah, I planned on coming like years ago, but glad I finally was able to get in. We've known each other for a while because you're in the community, right? I'm in the Argo community. Especially in the Kubernetes kind of CNCF landscape, like you just end up knowing everyone. So it's really great to be here for sure.
Yeah, I remember. I think one of the first projects we collaborated was Open GitOps, like trying to define like, no, just running a Jenkins pipeline and kubectl apply, and then rollout, restart, and wait, rollout status. That's not GitOps, right? And Open GitOps was like, well, let's define what GitOps is, so everybody's on the same page on that definition. And then you can check it out. Christian was on the pioneers on that with some other folks in the CNCF Open GitOps .dev, which is a topic that we'll be talking today amongst others. And also Christian, Akuity. Like Akuity is a great partner of AWS. I've been bringing some of the partners that do kind of like integrations with EKS and through add-ons or through open source integration, also supporting open source project. A lot of customers that I talk to and I help with, they use open source, but they also need like enterprise support. So we tend to have multiple partners for different open source projects. For example, Istio, we have Solo and Tetatre. For Argo CD, we have Kargo, Argo, all the Argo projects, right? Akuity has a good enterprise support. That, and why is that? Why Akuity knows something about Argo? Like, what is Akuity?
Yeah. So like, so Acuity really is, and I can like go ahead and start talking about like who we are. Is Acuity came from the founders of Argo CD, right? So we have Hong, Jesse, and Alex, who were actually at Intuit when they were part of the core team that created the Argo project, right? So Intuit at that time made a really strategic and bold direction to go into not only all in on cloud, right? So they're going to go all in on, funnily enough, AWS, and then all in on Kubernetes, right? And so, but they needed a way to kind of transition their legacy applications onto Kubernetes without burdening the application developers, right? Like they burning them in that, like, now, we kind of laugh and smirk about, like, now, like, I think every developer knows how to work with Kubernetes, but at that time it was so new.
I will have doubts on that. Like,
you met some people that haven't. Yeah.
I have people that just are good at writing Java code, Go code, Go controllers, right? Python. These days, Python is like doing a lot of AI. And the last thing that they want to do is work on infrastructure, right? They want to work on the applications. And then if they're in a large organization, hey, one or two team members deal with the deployment pipelines, with the DevOps. Just tell me if something's wrong with my application. Tell me how to log in, how to get the logs. But and if it's a container, I think that's true. What you mentioned about developers right now, they should be aware of containers. Like, they can run a container locally, a container runs in Kubernetes. So essentially, if there's something wrong, should not be their code. Should be something with the environment, right?
Yeah, exactly. And well, then that was like part of the reason, right? It's like, okay, well, we need to onboard these applications. We don't want to burden the developers. Let's create a suite of tools, right? And that's really what the Argo project was, and that's really where that idea came from, right? Like cloud first, right? and Kubernetes first, and then there was this like idea of like GitOps, right? Like we want like this to take advantage of the declarative nature, and that's really where the idea of like Argo CD came from, right? And I actually joined the project early on. I was working at Red Hat, right? And Red Hat was,
I remember.
Was a big part of open sourcing Argo and Argo CD, and they joined the Argo project. Now it's kind of like where I came in. So I've been doing like Argo for a while now. I've been doing it for so long that yeah. Well, it's funny because it's like a lot of stuff like for me that's like natural, or like for you it's like natural. Yeah. People ask questions. I'm like, oh wait, I forget. Like there's some people still adopting it and still and actually this is a good segue, right? Actually, I actually wrote a book. Right, about Argo CD. So
capture all that knowledge of all those years, right?
Yeah, all those years, I capture all this knowledge, and I actually even told you, hey, we should next book club needs to be this book here.
Yeah, we should definitely have it in the book club. There were people already asking in the book club, but I'm waiting for the thing to be released.
Yeah. So it's so you get Argo CD up and running. So it is officially released, right, as of right now.
So you're done. You're not writing every weekend.
Yeah, no.
Working with the editors.
Exactly. All that's out of the way. It's actually out to print right now, so you can get a digital copy right here. So Akuity was actually kind enough to sponsor this book. I actually started writing this book while I was at Red Hat, and I actually just finished it. So, like you said, it's a.
Your co-author is Andrew.
Andrew Block. So Andrew Block is and if you're in the Red Hat ecosystem or even in the open source, like you should know Andrew. Andrew Block.
Argo. He's familiar with a lot of the projects.
Yeah. He's a Helm contributor, Argo contributor. Yeah, exactly. And so he was my co-author, and we kind of like just melded our minds, right? Like he's worked a lot with customers. I work with a lot with like the community, and we kind of like got.
So what do people get if they QR code, like the first chapter? Do they get here?
They get the entire book.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So Akuity is sponsoring this, and
yeah. So Akuity is sponsoring this, so you can. So for those that you want a printed copy, there will be printed copies in at KubeCon. So if you're going to KubeCon, you can pick up a printed copy. But if you're an e-reader type of person,
you're going to do a sign.
I will sign it. Yes, if you find me, I will sign it. Yes. So go ahead. If you're an e-reader or like PDF person, you can scan it and start reading it now. And then we'll set up some time to.
So this is great for the book club, because the book club I tried to get a discount. So great. This is I think somebody was already asking me if the book was out. I told him like the printing, but yeah. Great news to advertise this down here, and then people can get their copy now. And how many pages?
It's about 300 pages ish.
Okay, so you say bulky is bigger than the previous one, the GitOps and Path.
Path.
Right?
Oh yeah. It's definitely bigger than that. It's code samples, sample repos, basically up and running, right? Like we decided, like, what do people need to know to get up and running, and started with Argo
application
CD
sets, which is my favorite feature of Argo CD.
Application sets, all that.
Okay.
I got you covered. Yeah. Application set, progressive syncs, all of that stuff. All that stuff is in there. So it's cool stuff. So again, thank you, Akuity, for sponsoring that, right? And so like I was saying before, Akuity, Hong, Jesse, and Alex, right? So if you're in the Argo ecosystem, right? These names should sound familiar. They are actually took everything they learned from running Argo in production at Intuit, right? So they went blood, sweat, and tears, scrapes, everything, right? They went through all that pain, and they decided to start Akuity in order to take some of those lessons learned and codify them into a platform, right? Okay. And so that platform ended up being what we call the Akuity platform, right? Or the GitOps platform for Kubernetes. Basically, very, very GitOps deployment focused, promotions, right? Which is something else that they actually came up with, that idea of GitOps promotion at Intuit, but they actually were released Kargo, which is an open source project that helps with GitOps promotion. And then observability, right? Monitoring. So monitoring that deployment, that your by GitOps environment, from deployment to promotion, and from running into production, right? So we kind of have like a platform that focuses on the GitOps deployment, the kind of deployment promotion, kind of that side of it, um, of your application lifecycle, right? And so we like to say deploy, promote, and monitor, right? Because like the big part of it is the deployment part. People always ask me like, oh, hey, like what's the difference between like open source Argo and the Akuity version of Argo, right? And so really it's you're talking about, I always say like from a 10,000 foot view, you've got the open source, which is very hub and spoke, and the Akuity version, which is agent based, right? And so you have the OSS architecture is hub and spoke in that, like, okay, you have a kind of this central management system that needs to go and reach out and touch all your clusters, right? And so, which means that you need to poke a hole in your firewall, right? Make that rule, that inbound rule to where your Argo CD instance can manage your cluster, right? So that's already right away people don't really like that, right? Yeah. That you have to poke a hole in your firewall. That Kubernetes API needs to be exposed at least to the Argo CD instance.
Or public, or make it public, which is sometimes not ideal for certain customers. Mm-hmm. But I would say in the AWS world, where we are, everything's a VPC, and large accounts, they have multiple accounts, and every account has their own VPC. So mm-hmm. the networking is segregated. Connect, if you have Argo CD open source in one cluster, one EKS cluster, one account in one VPC, to connect to the other 100 clusters in the other VPC, that's not as easy, right? To go over private from VPC to VPC, unless you already have that connectivity in place and trust that central Argo CD can reach the other ones. Usually that's not typical, so people will create kind of VPC lattice or transit gateways, or expose them, like you say, like a VPN, like VPN internally, or just make them public and make sure that they have security in place and authentication when logging into that public IP. So there's challenges with the networking, but environments that can do it, but there's a lot of environments that they can't.
Yeah, exactly, right. And there's also like that central kind of point of failure, in that, like, if your Argo CD instance goes down, like your deployment stop, right? Your applications keep running, right? Like, so that's like not to say that your applications keep running and they're fine, but then like deployment stops. And like, I don't know about you, I remember that like when I was managing systems, that when developers can't deploy, it's actually treated like you're hard down. Like it's actually treated like a level 1, right? Like it's applications are fine, your customers are fine, but if developers are sitting there not being able to do anything, that has actually becomes a big problem really, really quick. And it's also you're exposed, right? Like you need all the credentials for your managed clusters. Is also like Argo needs to know those credentials, right? And it's all sitting there in the central control plane. And those are kind of some of the challenges, right? Like Argo is great. There's a lot of production systems running out there, but like there's some of these challenges that comes with
skills,
running,
right? And skill to manage the Argo.
Exactly.
In AWS, if you're running AWS, you cannot workload identity, right? You can have static tokens. That usually, what I tell people, like they try to use the Argo CD CLI to add cluster. And that by default will go to the remote cluster, create a service account, and then grab the token back.
The token,
right. And in AWS, there's AWS flags that says like, no, do it with the AIM authentication, trustworthy identity. But for a small team, it may be overwhelmed to like manage this Argo CD if they have other things to worry about, right?
Yeah. So what like to address the challenges, right? What we did at Akuity is we took all the components of Argo CD and basically spread them out to your entire
cluster. You have it in
cluster.
The next slide, the view?
Yep. Okay. So basically we take like all the components and we turn it into an agent-based design, right? So instead of it being a hub and spoke, now you have like an agent coming in, and the agents now are responsible to go back and check into the your control plane, right? So that means that you don't have to poke a hole. You don't need ingress access, right? It's just egress. You just need the agents responsible to reach out and communicate with the Argo C control plane managed by Akuity. And so there's no need to like poke a hole in the firewall. Like if it has outbound access to on 443, right? Just like one port, one address, right? Like you reach out to the control plane, that agent can then go there. And also, since the controllers are sitting there in the managed cluster, all the operations are isolated to each managed cluster, right? And so, like, if you have this managed cluster that is, I don't know, particularly busy, it doesn't affect this managed cluster because everything else is contained there, right?
The heavy hitter is the controller. Like for people that are not aware, like that blue box, the controller is actually the one that does a lot of CPU and monitor a memory intensive. Like that's the one reconciling, right? Hitting the kube API server, making sure that the Argo CD matches that's the heavy one that goes into that one. So it's not centrally, right? That's little work on each one. So it's spread around.
Yeah, the work is spread around, and also the control plane doesn't need access to, like, let's say your Git repository, right? So if you have this internally, right, like you say, if you're like air gapped or if you have like an internal like Git repository or Helm repository, Akuity doesn't need to know about it, right? So like this control plane, everything happens in the managed cluster. So the managed cluster that's in your network can then reach out and do the Git clones or the Helm repo updates, and all of that happens within each managed cluster, right? And so I always like to say, like, as you're adding clusters, you're actually adding you're adding compute, right? So like you're like as you're adding clusters, you're actually adding compute. You're actually adding the platform scales with you, right? Because the nature of this design and how it's different from the open source version is that this here you have like an agent based kind of like a platform that kind of breathes with your own scaling up and scaling down.
And whoever is passing around in YouTube, they see the word agent. These agents don't have AI, by the way. Don't get get charged by ALMs or GPUs. It's a terminology now that is becoming popular associated with AI. These are type of we say demons, right, or agents in the system administration from back 20 years ago. Like we call them agents to monitor the system management, right? Smart enough to make the connectivity and the metadata to have the central control plane send some commands down, right? Or for the agent to reach out to the central system to get like, what work do I need to do?
Yeah, exactly. So the agent kind of like checks in with the platform, and then depending on like what it needs to do, it'll instruct the controller to do what it needs to do, right? And so so that's kind of like
you mentioned something here. Akuity, Akuity is a SaaS, right? So it's running in the cloud. I see 3 Kubernetes icons on the right, which I believe those are clearly EKS clusters, because a lot of people use EKS cluster. But the one in Akuity, you have the icon there of Kubernetes. Are you running Kubernetes in Akuity, or that's something that is disclosed, or maybe I probably need a slide that you put Kubernetes there?
Yeah. So it's your own little kind of private island. So anytime you spin up an Argo CD instance on the Akuity platform, it's basically, it has to run on Kubernetes, right? So it runs on an isolated K3D Kubernetes cluster that's dedicated just for you. So as you're spinning up, and then during the demo, like I'll show you, like, hey, like each one of these is like a Kubernetes cluster, and it'll make a little bit more sense as
looking forward to that.
And so that's kind of the deployment, right? We used Argo CD to deploy, and then we re-architected Argo CD so that way it scales. Essentially, it scales with your environment, right? And so the second part of the Akuity platform is the promotion aspect, right? And this is where Kargo comes in. And the idea for Kargo was actually quite simple, right? And so this is something that Jesse saw. Jesse and Alex from Akuity saw. while they were into it, and they saw that like with GitOps, right? So I'm talking in the context of GitOps. CI is being used to do the job of CD, meaning that like I think we as an industry, we say CI CD and we think they're the same thing because we say them together, right?
Yeah,
And it doesn't
yeah.
help that we have like things like Jenkins, right? Like monoliths like that. It's not nothing wrong with Jenkins, right? It's just, at that time it made sense. But we kind of like mush those things together. But they're actually two distinct things and two very different goals, right? So CI pipelines, it's like, hey, they're very short-lived, right? Given a code, build me an artifact. Given this code, run some integration tests, right? Rigid, top-down, repeatable, very good for end-to-end testing. CD pipelines, however, are indefinite, right? Like canaries, right? Like how long do canaries run? Sometimes for weeks. Like we don't, right? Like we don't, we don't know. Sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for a few minutes. It requires manual checks and approvals, and it really is not the CD pipeline is not really done until the next one starts, right? Because once it's running, the application is running. You're still like doing continuous verification on your application, right? And so, and we saw that in GitOps, it's really, really hard because like you have like this declarative, first you have Kubernetes, which is declarative. And then you have GitOps, this process, which is declarative, meaning that once it's in Git, like it's live, right? It's in production, and it's really not really flexible to do some of these things. There's things that help, like Argo rollouts and things like that help with like canary deployments and things like that. But like a release has to do a lot more than just a Git commit, right? And so so we see like the CI/CD, we kind of see this, right? See it as linear, but like in reality, it's really like this, right? It's really, really complex. And the GitOps part of it is the CD is like that very, very, very last step. So like, what have we done, right? In the industry, we write a bunch of scripts that ping pong back and forth, between deployments and GitOps, and we go and we start pushing more and more into CI, and CI just ends up being a bunch of like bespoke scripts, essentially, right? And so we kind of got the idea of like, okay, well, people are doing that. We needed something like kind of a process in the middle that does this kind of bridges the gap, right, between CI and GitOps CD, right? And was something we call continuous promotion, where it's like we need like this orchestrator, right? Like let CI do the best thing that it does, and let CD GitOps, right, do what it does, and let's create this orchestrator in the middle that monitors changes in your Git repo, in your Helm repo, container registry, in the future OCI, right? Like it's like the CI does something, and then there's like an end goal, right? So once that's done, what do we do with it? And that's kind of where the idea with Kargo came up, right? Kargo being that let's create like this this kind of middle orchestration layer between CI and CD that's GitOps friendly, right? And so for those who are interested, you can go to kargo.io. I'll put that in the chat. I'll put it. Okay, yeah, Kargo.io, and you can go and find out more about it, right? I'm also gonna. It's an open source tool, but actually we have it on our platform as well, right? Because Akuity, open source company, right? Everything that we do is open source, so you can actually use it today. And so the way it works is like this, right?
To tell a little bit a story about promotions. The problem that I see, not a problem, but yeah, a problem that I see in the industry, or maybe with a lot of like material or content or blog posts, is when people think about promotion, they think about one cluster, thinking that they have two deployments, or maybe one namespace and then two deployments that I'm promoting from version 1 to version 2 in that one cluster, right? One deployment to another, and Argo CD can do that. Argo rollout, sorry, right, can do that. And Argo CD and deployments, they have different rollout strategies. But I think where it gets complicated and people hit a wall is like when they go to AWS and they spin up EKS, and most everyone deploys an EKS cluster per environment. They will have a cluster for development, which is like for developers to try things. They have sandboxes and things like that. And then they will have like two distinct environments, non-production and then production. So you have to orchestrate the promotion between putting stuff in non-production and then having some rules that the production environment is waiting on it to then put the same application on production. And that rules could be wait 2 hours, wait 3 hours, right? It could be it needs to pass certain testing, or we need to wait until Tuesday because we always promote on Tuesdays, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's where it gets a little bit complicated, because then what people are just saying, like they write imperative scripts where there's a pipeline that says, I'm going to deploy to this cluster. If everything's fine, I'm going to go to the next one. And when people say, like, well, no, that script needs to wait a few days. Like, what do you mean that it's going to sleep? Put a sleep command in my bash script for 3 days, and then until that thing happens, right? That's imperatives, and that's where people get into trouble. Like, no, we cannot wait. We have to put it the state in a database, and then we'll run a cron job, right? And it gets very complicated to actually do that. And then what happens if after 2 days, as you're doing low performance testing or just integration testing every day, things fail, and then you have to roll back, right? You have to rewrite that script, and then that's where you end up with a lot of scripts that you show, and then you had a screen like that. But I think could that be express declarative, right? In a declarative way, that since we're working with Kubernetes, what better way to describe things with Kubernetes resources, right?
Exactly. Like a declarative way of, because I know, because like usually when you deploy an application in production, I remember doing this, back pre-Kubernetes days, right? Like when you deploy into production, it's actually like, it's not just a cluster, it's a set of clusters.
It could be different regions, right?
Yeah,
or it could be
even different regions. Yeah, exactly.
And then you roll it out by deploy to 2 production clusters, that group A.
Yeah.
I think I did a talk with Mike with Adobe in ArgoCon. You can check it out.
With Mike. I remember.
It was a grouping aspect, right? So they have like 400 EKS cluster or 400 clusters, and they group them, right? They have like 40 group A or production, and then 40 more, and then 20 more. So they're promoting the application onto a group of production clusters, and then the next set, and the next set. And you have to do it in a way that you check the previous one and probably wait some time, that bake time, right? Let it bake for a bit of time. As you progress, you can decrease the bake time, right? So you can exponential release out there.
And I think that's what it is, right? Like the bake time. Because I remember like deploying, like you said, pre-prod, right? And at that time it was clusters, right? Kubernetes clusters. VMs, right? So like I have like VMs, a group of VMs.
I was just saying like something like Ansible. I remember doing a lot of Ansible back in the day.
Oh my God. I did this. This was with Chef. This is how old the story is. This is old. Yeah. So I deployed VMs and deployed the application, but it was production. And then when I'm ready to switch over, it was AB, right? It's like I basically changed the pointer.
Swap. And all of a sudden, swap.
We swap it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we like basically like now pre-prod is considered prod, right? And then I had like this holding. So like and we're essentially doing the same thing, except now instead of VMs, they're like a group of Kubernetes clusters, right? And so and now we have the, like you said, the challenge of declaratively, right? And so that's kind of like where Kargo fits in, where and it kind of works like this, right? Like you have the CI either automated or someone can
sing GitHub Actions,
whatever
code build, right? We have in AWS, we have a code build, code pipelines,
code build, whatever,
building images,
building image or whatever, and goes through the CI, and then at the end you get this artifact, which is a container, right? Kargo will then detect that and be like, oh, like there's a new version, like what do you want me to do with this, right? So the way Kargo interacts with Argo CD is actually through GitOps, right? Through a GitOps repository, through what we call write back, right? It writes, quote unquote, writes back to the GitOps repository and tries to orchestrate it by writing to the Git repo and then telling Argo CD to deploy it and then do a verification, right? And so verification here at when I say verification, I should probably be a little bit more clear. Verification can be done however you want. It can be done with like Prometheus. It could be done like with Datadog. You can even use CloudWatch as well, right? Like if you're especially if you're doing EKS or something, you can use like CloudWatch or something and just monitor it. And then Kargo has the intelligence to be like, oh, something's wrong. let me, change, the GitOps repository, right? Let me revert back to the original one and tell Argo to sync that version because something went wrong, right? And so, I see Edgin's on. So Edgin's, he works at Pulumi, by the way, and he uses Kargo with he uses Kargo with Pulumi, which is great as well, right? Like it shows you kind of this is not just a problem with GitOps, it's just like Kubernetes in general, right? Like if you're working with declarative infrastructure, right? And so the last part, and I think we'll just drop into the demo and just start hacking away. I think people want to see more hacking than anything else, is that we have monitoring, right? And so you're talking about AI, right? We have an AI support engineer.
So there was AI. I was joking before.
Yeah, well, the agent is just an agent, but we actually have an AI support engineer, which basically you can, as you have like this fleet of clusters instead of like digging. I think as we're starting the AI journey, right? I think digging through logs and like issue triage, I think is a great first step. And then this is where we're starting at Akuity, is like let's just help with issue triage. I think there's extreme value there in the monitoring aspect, right? Of
and it's especially right. You want to say like Argo spits out errors and Kubernetes spits out errors and there's events. So it's not your application that is wrong. You're trying to troubleshoot the DevOps, the DevOps pipeline.
Yeah, exactly. The contextual, right? Like we always talk about context, right? When we're talking about AI and stuff, like the contextual thing. Like, all right, given the fact of my entire environment, where's the problem, right? And so that is built in into the Akuity platform as well. And so really the Akuity and EKS, really that's where our sweet spot is. That's where Kubernetes first. So that's obviously going to be where we slot in. And so essentially it looks like this, right? So you have all these EKS clusters. So you talked about the logo, right? That's the EKS logo right there. So we're going to have 3 EKS clusters here in this kind of little demo. We're going to have, kind of like a test, UAT, and production kind of environment with clusters. And we're going to promote an image update between these clusters, right? And we're going to try to make it a little bit interactive with you guys. And so, so before I drop in there, I've ran a series of webinars called.
Man, you've been busy lately in my YouTube.
Subscription
notifications. Like like every other day, I see your face. Like another webinar, another best practices.
Yeah, so I have the GitOps best practices, GitOps masterclass, right? Where like it's
the
like
workshop. You did a workshop with a partner, AWS partner. Yeah,
I do at the AWS workshop. So all of that is actually on our YouTube, free, right? You just go and watch it. The GitHub links are there, and you can actually follow along with the video. So we didn't make it like if you missed the live, it doesn't matter. You can do it on your own time. So Akuity, right? So search Akuity on YouTube or scan that link. But don't want to spend too much time on that because I do want to drop into the demo here, where we can just hack away. So this is Akuity.
This Akuity platform, and this is something that people can get for free, a free trial for 13 days. All features turned on, right?
All features turned on, 30 days. As you see here, my trial will expire in 28 days. So I'm actually using the free trial just to show you that you can do everything.
Fully supported,
Fully supported, 30 days. You have everything. And I have an Argo CD instance here for deployment.
Argo 3. Oh, wow. 3.06.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I have an update for the UI. There we go. And a Kargo, right? So I have Kargo as well for deployment, right? These two are integrated. But when I spin this up right here, you get your own little private K3 cluster. And then if I want to spin another one up, I can, and that'll be its own like little private island. So for all of you platform engineers, right, like you'll end up looking like this.
If you have, if you want to segregate a lot of the clusters, right? But one of these boxes can handle many EKS clusters, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. One of these.
So I think the guidance, like maybe some guidance, right? You will have multiple of these. I would say, like I tend to say have an Argo CD for non-prod. And have another one for prod, right? Don't mix those environments, right?
And
you have a lot of clusters that are non-prod and a lot of them that are prod. Don't mix them. So at least minimum 2.
Yeah, and also you may have to do that for regulatory. And like I know people is like,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter if Argo CD has RBAC and all of that, all those features. Like we just can't do it, right? We're just not allowed, right? Government tells us we're not allowed, right? Like you just have regulations. So I have this Argo CD instance. As you can see, these are kind of like the metrics that come. This is built into to the Akuity platform. So as like an admin, you can kind of see what's going on there. I have 3 EKS clusters, right? Attached to this, and so it's these 3 right here in my AWS dashboard. I got prod, test, and UAT. I have those connected there. I do want to let you know that these are the Akuity platform is part of the marketplace. So if you are using EKS, if you are an AWS customer, you can purchase this on the marketplace, so you don't even have to worry about it, right? It's one bill, you get all of it, and then we have the Akuity agent that you could as an EKS add-on, right? So you don't have to, the integration goes beyond just the marketplace, right? You can use the EKS add-on to manage these clusters,
and this
right?
doesn't install like the whole Argo, right? It just a small integration like that. What you show about the agent and the controller, or the initial agent.
Yeah, the agent and the controller are sitting there managing it, so you're not actually fully deploying
Small resources,
Argo
right?
CD.
Consumption.
Yeah, and so and I have this app. Going to I have a test demo test, demo UAT, right? I want like someone to accept it, right? The user acceptance test. Once it passes the acceptance test, I go into prod. And how I'm going to do that, right? Like I have this Kargo instance, right? And so Kargo kind of sits in the middle, orchestrating your changes, right? And this is all done on the Akuity platform, where I have these images coming down, and then
so Kargo is observing the container registry for images to show up.
Yeah, so if I open this up, it's monitoring this GitHub container registry, right? So basically any V2 a container image registry, right? OCI compliant, anything that you can monitor. But if you look at the live manifest, I'm actually setting up some rule sets. So what's really, really cool, you talked a little bit about like rule sets, is like, well, like anytime there's a push to an image registry, well, I don't want everything, right? Because there's developers constantly making changes, right? As you should, right? Constantly testing. If you're monitoring a Git repo, there's a bunch of commits and stuff. You don't want to look at every commit. You only want the ones that you care about, right? And so in this instance, I want to say, look, I want images that are semver, right? I want semantic versioning, and I want it in this format, right? So I want it in this, for you regex people, you can figure that out. I only want it in this format, and the constraint is I want everything that's greater than or equal to version 1, essentially.
I see. Yeah. So if somebody builds a GitHub action or a pipeline that puts an image with the 7 characters of the Git hash, right? Usually that's how I typically do. Like, then that's something that I just want to try out, right? I don't want necessarily to be picked up. You could be pushing images in the same repository, and then with the tagging, same way you do with Git tagging, right? That's the signal that tells you what to pick up or what to ignore.
What to pick up or what to ignore, exactly, right? And so you can build these rule sets. And right now I'm just looking for version 1.0 and newer, and it has to be number, right? Like I'm very, very, as an administrator, and you can, put this whatever you like, but that's kind of like the filtration system that I have here, and it's monitoring that image repo. And like as you can see here, these numbers they follow that semantic versioning, right? V1 dot something.
Oh, nice! It has the time frame. Like 2 days ago, I didn't have.
Nice 2 days ago. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 23 hours ago. You can kind of see. You can see which version is in which environment, right? So like in the test, I can see it's in 1.3.3. UAT is 1.3.2, and in production is 1.3.1, right? And so, and if you want to see, like the test is a green box, the yellow box is in the UAT, and the production we're having a blue box, right? This is kind of just like a simple demo here. And so I'm going to run through a pipeline, through an update here. And so I have as you notice here, I have different colors, right? As you see, I have yellow, but I also have red. I have like pink as well, and green. And by the way, this goes to show you that those didn't come through because they don't follow semantic versioning, right? Like they didn't follow my rule set. So that's sort of thing. But if I'm going to ask the audience here. See if Edgin's still up, or maybe Ali. Ali keeps messaging here. What color should I promote? Right? What color do you want to see? Do we want to see green? Do you want to see pink? Do you want to see red? I am actually kind of want red because it's my favorite color. But let's see if anyone answers here, or maybe I'll let Carlos pick.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit delayed from what people.
Yeah. Pink
in the live stream.
We want pink. Pink. All right. Everyone says pink. So we're gonna do pink. So let's. I'm gonna fake.
So you're going to take pink and then tag it with version 1 dot something, or or something bigger than 1.00.
Yeah, 1.00. Right. I'm gonna do 1.4. Right. Like just say pink. Right now I'm doing a Docker tag, but like this could be a CI pipeline, right? Like we don't have time to see a whole CI pipeline. So just pretend this was a CI pipeline, and at the very end of the build, there was a Docker tag, and they I need to Docker pull this first. Not a problem, because it should go quick. All right, let's tag, and then Docker push. Cool. So then now that's pushed,
is it Cargo watching that?
Kargo is watching it. I don't want to sit here for 3 minutes. So the reconciliation loop is every 3 minutes. In the next version of Kargo, we're going to have a webhook, so it should happen automatically. Right? So
interesting.
In 1.6, as soon as it detects, you can have, as soon as at the end of your pipeline, you can hit a web.
Yeah, people are impatient. Like they cannot wait 3 minutes.
They cannot wait 3 minutes.
Only for demos. Like in production, nobody cares about it takes 3 minutes. So what?
3 minutes. Yeah, I'll fire it off. I'll go get something to drink, and when I come back, it's there, right? And so as you see, it's here, right? I can click on this here, and it tells you information about this artifact, right? Version 1.4. It's not been verified in anything. It's not been approved at any stages, any stages yet. If you want to click here, it'll tell you kind of the what do you call it? The information about it, right? Like the digest and things like that. And so you can even set it up. What I really like about Kargo is that you can even set it up to where it'll use the digest instead of the tag, which I think is really, really cool. And so the way to promote this is actually really easy. So I click here and I click promote and I select one, right? So this is kind of a show you can roll forward, you can roll back. You can do all these things with the artifact. Let's choose the new one.
You're doing this with the mouse just because of the demonstration purposes, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can have like auto promote or rule sets to how when things promote, right? And so
because in reality, if it's the test environment, I don't want
you want that right away. Yeah, you want that right away. Right? Yeah,
as long as it passes the verification, right? Certain verification maybe have like lower environment testing or smoke test, right? Something simple, and it goes there, or maybe unit test or some type of integration that is low cost, so it goes faster.
Yeah, it goes faster. We have the ability to auto promote as well, right? Like you said, like here, this is just for the demo, but you can auto promote things and then run tests and then
I don't want people to take the impression like they go ahead and try Kargo, and then you for the whole week they're just like clicking.
They'll be clicking buttons. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, this is how Christian set it up. Like no, you
stop
testing and automation, right? This thing should flow.
Exactly. So I click promote and it goes through what we call promotion steps, right? And so, and it does things like it'll do like a get clone, it'll do a customized set image, and then it'll write that back, right? And so, without going too deep into detail, because I know, I don't want to run out of time, but like I use rendered manifests, right? And so Kargo does that for me. And so what ends up happening is that if I go here, as you see here, this is my my registry here, or my Git repo that I'm working with. It says, oh, hey, you had a recent push 2 seconds ago, right? And so I render all my YAML into one YAML, and then I have Argo deploying that, right? Here, in this instance, it updated this image, as you can see, 1.4. Again, you can set up Kargo. I think for production purposes, I think you should use the hash. You can either do that with Kargo, you could do that with Kyverno, right? You can do it with a mutating webhook or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to mention you can do it at
Um,
entry point.
yeah, exactly. And so so that it actually renders that manifest, right? In the future, I'll recommend those who are watching, either now or in the future, to not render them into a branch, but maybe to an OCI repository. Not that
Yeah, we
Argo
were talking
supports
about
OCI.
that in Slack. And you want to learn more, like you
Yeah.
can actually talk to us in Slack. You can go to CNCF
Yeah.
Slack. We have a couple of Argo channels. We have the Argo-CD, we have Argo CD OCI, Argo SIG scalability, Argo GitOps bridge if you want. So you want to check that out. But this branch where you have this render manifest is not intended for humans. And I had a talk with Michael this week. We were talking about the same pattern of like this render manifest is to have a snapshot of exactly what changed on that Kubernetes cluster, and to make the Argo CD controller not do that heavy lifting of like rendering every time. So it's just giving like, this is the whole YAML that you have to apply. And somebody comes back, you can see exactly what was deployed on that cluster versus what was rendered on that day that happened to have some injected dynamic information, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I deploy, right? My interface is still going to be main, right? So
we're folders, right? We are team folders per environment, right? We're not teams,
folders per
exactly.
No, environment. So like if I go here and if I go to my like I could see, you see I have the test folder here, and then this customization has 1.4, right? Like this is my interface. This is where I interface with, but the process is that it writes to something
stash on orphan git repo that there's these are not the droids that you're looking for, right?
Don't even worry about it. Actually, I'm just calling it out because you'll see it, but you actually shouldn't really be touching it, only to look at it, right, to compare. So Kargo does that, and then when it's done doing that, it actually runs a verification, right? As you can see, some of my verifications failed. Looks like this one succeeded, right? And so this here, I'm just doing a simple webhook, right? That does kind of like basically a curl, and I look for a status. So it doesn't have to be.
Can I write those verifications, or like that verification tests are something that Akuity give me a few and then I write my own, or how does that work?
No, you can bring your own. So what you would have, we want to plug into what you already have, right?
Okay.
So like if you have Prometheus, or if you have CloudWatch, or if you have data, like we don't want to like provide any data for your application.
But I think I heard that Kargo has some integration into the analysis template from the Argo rollouts project. Analysis template is a very powerful CR operator, I will say, CR that happens to be in Argo rollouts, but it's just for anywhere.
Yeah, it's for anywhere, right? Like it's actually pretty powerful, and we use the analysis template for Argo rollouts. And here I'm just doing a simple webhook, but it does it does a verify. So once it deploys, it verifies, right? If you go here, if I see, you get the pink box, right? That Edgin wanted pink. But my other environments, right, are untouched, right, because they are pointing to different branches.
So the test failed because you said that you wanted a pink and you got fuchsia.
What's that?
You got a different color. You got fuchsia instead of pink. That's why it failed.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I actually So like I was trying to figure out why it failed the other day. As you can see, I was testing it, and the verification actually did fail. So, but I made it pass for the demo. So, and so what's really cool here is like, hey, aim and test. Like, can I promote this straight into production? And the answer is no.
Okay.
No, because I'm in a pipeline, right? This is a CD pipeline. This is a continuous promotion pipeline where it needs to pass. Like my production say, if it's not past the UAT, don't even make it available for me.
Okay, interesting.
There will be some use cases where you need to do like a hot fix. Like I don't want to go through the pipeline. There's something's broken, production's down. I can actually click here and click manually approve, and I can manually approve it. But by default, it won't let me promote anything that hasn't been verified in a previous step.
Can you have control over that? Like you can like have different users have that manual, and then some users are not allowed to do it. In case like it's me, like I'm not somebody that doesn't know that they should not be manually approving.
Yep. Yeah. So like we have what do you call it? RBAC, right? So we have like a
Okay.
RBAC system here. So, and then, oops, let me go back to users. We have an RBAC system to where like, oh, hey, like given this particular user, this user can do this user can't do that, all those things. And we integrate with anything that's OpenID, IDC Connect, right? And so, so OpenID Connect, which is basically almost anything. And SAML too, actually. So if you have LDAP, we actually even do that as well. Cause like you can
So
do
in the
anything.
UAT, to promote to UAT, you can potentially, in practice, this is demo, right? In practice, you will
Mhm.
set it up automatically. Once
Yes.
it passes in test, wait an hour, and then
Yep.
deploy to UAT. That's something that you can like declarative put in a YAML.
Yep. Yeah. So declaratively, you can say, hey, if it passes UAT, let it bake for, however long you want it to sit, and then automatically promote it to
and
the
then
next.
grab
Yeah.
it. So you can have different production environments saying, well, in this production one group, I'm going to wait 1 hour and then I'll get it. And then the other production group is waiting 2 hours, and then eventually 2 hours will get
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
image. So not everyone gets the same blast
Oh, like
radius, right?
yeah,
You
blast
can
radius. Yeah,
detect
you,
it.
you want to like controlled kind of fan out type of deployments here. And so going down the pipeline, it's same idea, right? Like it's I actually set it up to where that it's usable,
It's doing the
reusable, right?
verifying. Yeah.
Yes, it's verifying there
In
as
the
you
GUI.
see it.
It's a nice GUI. I would say
Yeah,
I've seen people telling me that's one of the
yeah.
one of the big things about this cargo is this UI.
Yeah, it's like UI or user experience centric, right? And
Yeah, for
so
people getting started, right? You just need to work with this like maybe a couple of weeks to get a few apps, but then when you have a large environment, you have
yeah,
hundreds or thousands of apps, right? Things run smoothly, right? You don't have to
yeah,
watch this all the time.
yeah, exactly. And I think where's the yeah? So I have promotion tasks. So I actually have a promotion task that is reusable, right? So anytime someone wants to add, like, let's say you want to add a step here, you can actually just reuse it, and it's
Oh,
like
a little
parameterized.
library that you can like share
Yeah,
between all the
yeah,
pipelines,
all
right?
the yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of using that in like because a lot of the steps are similar, right? Because if I go back here, I should have another one that's UAT. Yes,
Okay.
like a UAT. I pushed it a minute ago. But it's a similar step, except I'm, doing little various changes here. So if I go,
And Kargo is talking to Argo CD, right? While it's doing this
yeah,
is writing to Git and then going back to
yeah,
Argo CD and saying Argo CD, please sync and do and run through your health because Argo CD has a health checks that you can even write Lua
yes,
script that if
yep.
something you do a sync, you will detect that it's happened. So in practice, let me see if you have it here. You don't have auto sync enabled, right?
This here, no, no, I
And
have,
that's a practice that some people miss out. Like they ask me
yeah,
like, well, how can I avoid this thing to avoid it to auto sync because I want to approve it? Like, well, you never put auto sync in production. Like I think maybe
yeah,
you saw a demo, right? That did
yeah,
it. In production, you have manual sync, and then you have things like cargo or pipeline that says, I want to see that thing green, right?
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like, as you see here, it says last sync was like a minute ago. That's like Cargo did that sync. This says right here, Cargo did the sync, right? Like 2 minutes ago. Like Cargo's actually, and you notice like I'm doing everything through Cargo. I haven't really touched Argo. Like if I want to go into production right here, and I think this is pink yet, so it's pink. If I want to go into production here and I select this, and I hit promote, I can actually go here. We can actually see the production starting to sync. As you see there, it's out of sync. Now it's in progressing. Now it's healthy, right? Right now it's probably doing the verification. Yeah, so it's doing the verification right now, making sure that version is the version, right? So if I go here, this blue should turn into pink, which it did.
So if there's a analysis template that runs after like putting the
After,
image and the image is running, can it go back?
yeah.
So
So
we go to the previous one.
yeah. So like you can
Kind of
set
like
it up
what
to where
Argo rollouts does, kind of thing, right?
yes, yeah,
So you don't
exactly. And
need
you can even
to, you don't have
yeah.
to use Argo CD. You're just using normal deployments and Argo CD.
Yes, exactly. And then like if you see this like, hey, we weren't ready for the pink one, let's roll back to whichever one we were, right? Like let's select that
Yeah,
one.
you can go two versions after a few releases. You find out that we
Yeah,
have to go back to the previous one, right? And they don't have time to make the change, right? Because it may be
yeah,
something that is performance wise or something that is not changing the code that they have. It takes time.
Yeah, exactly. And then I it's back to blue, right? Like if I wanted to roll back, it's like, um, you can do, all those things, right? And so, and here, like it really, Kargo is really, really the happy path. And really, like if I want to do some debugging, I have the Akuity event timeline um, built into Argo CD, right, where it kind of tells
Oh,
you the
it's a
information.
extension, a UI extension for Akuity.
Yeah, so it's a UI extension that it's included, right? It tells you kind of like the information that's happened. And if I go to details here, yeah, so like it'll tell me the sync history, right? Who
Interesting.
did what and when. My audit log, right? It'll say, oh, the Kargo controller did the sync. Admin, I started the sync, right? Like I did that, right? I have the AI assistant, right? So like if I wanted to go here, let's just make a manual change here. Oops. Let's do here, and then this is live, right? So let's see this. Hopefully the AI gods help me out here. So here it's like out of sync, and then the AI
And then
is yeah, what's the status,
why
right?
is it out of sync? Okay.
Yeah, like, or like, yeah, so like it says it's out of sync, like why is it out of sync, right? You can do like natural language help with triage, right? Like what we call I think this works. Who made the change? I think this.
Oh, let's see
Or
if we say Christian's logged in.
Yeah, Christian log or like admin or whoever. Let's see if it knows. But like this is what's really cool about this is that one of our last several things have been started by Kargo controller. Oh, okay. Except for deployment ID, which was initiated by admin. Oh wow, like
yeah,
calling me out, right? Because I am admin, right? So it did know like who did this. Like if I go to like settings,
user info, right?
Yeah.
Admin,
So it's so like that's me. I'm logged in as user info. I'm logged in as admin, but
in production when people set up like people will use their own single sign-on and we'll see their
it would like username, right? One of our customers, they said that they really liked the AI assistant only because it got rid of what they call a noisy developer, right? So I don't know, like a lot of people, I used to be in systems and I used to support a bunch of developers. Some developers, like you just leave them alone, they never call you, and some of them like you need to hold their hand the entire time during a deployment, right? Like I ran into all like the ones that wanted to be left alone and the ones that wanted me by their side the whole time. And so this customer said like, hey, the AI assistant, like my phone calls started getting less and less because
interesting. Cool.
AI to
the rescue.
AI to like they're basically self-serving essentially at that point. They're like self-triaging, like, oh, okay, like I can start asking these questions, right? And so
nice.
And
so I think we're running out of time. If you want to show some core for action, there's different the AWS marketplace, right? Do you have different services there?
Yeah, we have different services, right? Yeah, so we have the platform agent, right, which is like the Akuity EKS, the add-on, essentially the EKS add-on, the Akuity platform itself, which is basically you can like sign up for the Akuity platform straight from it.
A lot of customers they need this because they do procurement, right? Their bidding system and procurement needs to go through AWS, and they can just pay here. And then the last one, enterprise support.
Yeah, enterprise support is basically anything that needs having to do with Argo, right? So like if you need Argo support, Argo workflows, Argo CD, Argo rollouts. This is
engineering hours, right? Like from the
engineering
experts, from the creators of the project, right? So if you have like a couple of weeks just to set up everything, right? Or talk about best practices for my application.
Or talk about best practices,
or a custom UI widget or CMP, right? You can help with that. So you can subscribe to that in the AWS marketplace, and Akuity is being a great partner of AWS, and EKS customers are using Argo, and they have a lot of questions. And then also this is built on top of the CNCF ecosystem. Argo is I believe last time we did the ArgoCon third, right? Third most
Yeah.
biggest CNCF project by Kubernetes. I think OpenTelemetry and then Argo.
OpenTelemetry is
So
number 2. Yeah.
if
And
you
then
want
Argo's
to,
number
there's
3.
a couple of people asking in the comments. We don't have time how to contribute, but yeah, you can reach out in the CNCF, follow the contribution guidelines. There's all the projects, Argo rollouts, Argo workflows. You can contribute to Kargo, that counts as open source contributions in terms of like Linux Foundation. Um, well, Akuity, Kargo is not part of the CNCF Foundation, but I think it counts as be able to say that you work on open source, you have experience on open source, right?
Yep.
And the license is an open source license, so it's a good project to get your hands dirty if you want to learn about open source. So um, I think with that, Christian, thank you so much for coming today to
Yep.
Containers from the Couch. It was super useful, this type of information. I think a lot of people are using Kubernetes, and there. I think there are a lot of people who are already using Kubernetes, and that is, I think, is covered for the most part. I think the next wave of people are like want to do promotions, and they want to do GitOps,
Yep.
and there's a lot of like try and error, like they're trying to learn Argo CD. I think this book will be very useful for people to get best practices. So we have to coordinate for the dates on the Kubernetes book club, but yeah, we'll go over that, and those we recorded also. So the more we spread the knowledge about the best practices around CI/CD pipelines, promotions, GitOps, that's what goes on top of Kubernetes, right? Then Kubernetes does its job, but the releasing software is still the most important thing. So we have Erin, Engine. I think I'll reach out to Engine. Actually, we haven't done it. I haven't brought Pulumi since I been the host in Containers from the Couch. I'm bringing all my friends from CNCF.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so until next time, follow Christian and Akuity on LinkedIn. They have Akuity has a page. Christian has a account in LinkedIn. I mean LinkedIn. That's probably the most place that I can see your comments, and also comments here in YouTube if you're watching and recording, or you're watching in LinkedIn. And reach out to Akuity. They have a through the GitHub, they will find all the information, and they have a Discord, and also the Argo CD project. We're on the CNCF Slack. So until next time, see you folks, and happy Argo CD and GitOps. See you folks.
Yep. All
Bye.
right. Cheers. Bye, everyone.